Meanwhile, some migrants bussed from Texas to New York City hotels are now going door to door, knocking on doors, asking locals in the houses, do you have anything to eat? Or where? Or could I get a job? It all comes after Mayor Eric Adams declared a state of emergency over the influx of 17,000 migrants entering his city in the last 6 months, some by bus. Our next guest went to investigate the migrant housing himself. New York City Councilman Joe Borelli joins us. Joe, good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, so you saw this story, and, it's terrifying to think that these people are so desperate they're going door to door.
Yeah, Steve, leave the politics aside for a second. I mean, these people are here with nothing but the shirts on their back. Right. And when you see children and women, dressed in T-shirts and shorts in October in New York, it's a problem. It's very sad. It's very troubling, and it's upsetting to anyone who sees it.
Sure. And so the city, I guess, relocated them to a series of hotels in Staten Island. And as you can see, these people obviously are freezing to death because they've literally got the clothes they were given in Texas. Mm-hmm. Big difference in the temperature.
Yeah, I mean, it seems the city's trying to ramp up their response. But now even Mayor Adams has said the word emergency, and that's exactly what it is. I think people out there should be asking where the federal government is in response to this. Joe Biden was in town last week. He flew from Poughkeepsie down the Jersey Shore back to Manhattan. Never once did he stop and look what's going on at the Port Authority bus depot or one of the tent cities, the Hooverville, that's now being constructed on Randall's Island. He needs to be confronted with the failure of his border policy so he could really understand the ramifications.
And Joe, after you saw it with your own two eyes, what did you do?
I brought some clothes and some toys for some of the kids. Again, I'm a father. It's troubling to see. I can disagree with the policy. I could fight the policy. But when you see people there in desperate circumstances as a result of insane border policies, it really is troubling.
It is indeed. And so is the crime crisis. I don't know if you felt safe coming into the Fox World headquarters today, but a lot of people don't feel safe on the street, including the former governor. Listen to this.
First time in my life, even in the late 80s and 90s, when the crime rate was killing 2,000 people a year, I never felt as unsafe as I do now just walking around. And God forbid, sometimes we take the subway home from WABC, and you're hearing about an assault on the subway almost every other day.
Right. People aren't safe. And the randomness. Look at Lee Zeldin. He's coming up in 18 minutes. There's a shooting in front of his house. He didn't know whether or not he was being targeted or it was just one of those things.
Look, the governor's right. When I grew up, we didn't go to shows in Manhattan. We rarely went to a Yankee game in the Bronx because of the crime level. We were scared. You're seeing that same feeling now infect New York once again. People like Governor Patterson, who've been here his whole life, know it. I know it. And I hope more Democrats like him come out and acknowledge the reality of what one-party government has done to this state over the last 20 years.
And, thieves are just so brazen. Joe and I were just talking about a story here in New York City on Thursday. A man, presumably in his 50s, was crushed by a construction truck. And as he lay dead on the pavement, what happened?
This is the new New York where you rob people who are victims of traffic accidents, horrific traffic accidents. And the people cheered him on. The people cheered this guy on. That should really send shockwaves to anyone thinking about coming to New York.
And the cops are having a problem identifying the body because they took the ID, and the cop said to the New York Post, at least they didn't steal his teeth.
It's a shame, Steve. There's no other way to describe it.
I think you described it exactly right. It's the new New York City, and it's terrifying. Joe, thank you very much for joining us live.